Boom. All right. You hear we got our guy Baldy on?
Oh,
Let's go. Just
There he is.
another little NFL network reunion here.
that's right.
What's up,
Bal-
JP?
Oh, I asked you some. We ran out of time yesterday because I was doing a whole thing on what we've seen from Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in terms of all the snaps that they played and all the growth that they've had. And I didn't get your comment on the big boys inside from Philly. Can I get that real quick?
Well, they were drafted to be the next starting defensive tackle pair when Fletcher moves on, and so they got more snaps than they've gotten all year. And they were outside of one drive, they were really dominant up front. Jordan Davis probably played his best game so far as an Eagle, and then Jalen's just been just a wrecker, just an offensive wrecking machine all season long. And everybody recognizes the talent. I mean, it's not guys in the Eagles, just not in Philadelphia. I mean, the league, Zach Martin in Dallas. I mean, the whole league is recognizing just how talented and advanced he is in all phases of the game.
Yeah.
And
it could be defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are maybe the best pairing on the defensive line and around across the NFL. And then on the flip side, this Broncos offensive line, Baldy, are they quickly becoming one of the best offensive lines in the NFL?
James might have this figure. I think, when you look at McGlinchey, Miners, Cushenberry, Powers, and Bowles, I think they played like all but 5 snaps together this year. I don't think there's any other line that has had that much continuity.
Yep.
And so if you look at them from, say, the Washington game early in the year to now, it's light years. And all you want is to build continuity. And now they're playing really well together. And so in all phases, I mean, there was a time when Russell Wilson couldn't drop back and not get hit.
Yeah.
I know sometimes he was bailing too fast, whatever, but you don't see anything like that. And then against a great defense last week, it's an offensive lineman's dream to be able to run block 39 times, to be as effective as they were, and just pound them like they did. And that's a good feeling. And, that's stark improvement from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, this offensive line has had the ability to play together and gain continuity, like you said. But I want to talk about the Texans offensive line, who's had some injuries, had some players go down, had some moving pieces. How do the Broncos take advantage of this Texans offensive line?
Well, they're going to see a new left guard, and it's too bad. He was playing really good. He's out for the season now. Tunsil is.
You love Tunsil, Baldy.
He's honestly, like I told this to James earlier this year, but it's almost boring watching him and studying him because every play looks exactly the same. Like his set is exactly the same. He could put a blindfold on, his hands are going to hit the same spot. He's just that consistent. He's a really good player. So, they take a hit. And they had been running the ball real good up until last week. Motor Singletary taking over the starting job. And he'd run the ball real well. We'll see if they still have that ability. I don't know who they're putting in at left guard right now. I haven't heard. But, it's going to, anytime you start dipping, into the next guy up type thing, it can, especially in that position, it can affect everybody around you.
Baldy, we were talking on the show about how remarkable Stroud has been. Now, obviously, we've seen the big plays and we've seen the fourth quarter comebacks, but his ability to protect the football as a young quarterback. What have you seen when you look at film and you look at what defenses try to do to confuse him, and why doesn't he get confused?
Well, that's a great question, James, because I don't see him confused.
Yeah.
But what I do see is, for a pretty big guy, he's got elite footwork. Like if he's going through any of his progressions, it's one thing your eyes move and you're seeing, okay, the first window's closed. I'm going to the second window on this route combination. His feet move. Like his feet are in position to throw. He's never feet looking this way and he's throwing that way. Like his feet move. So he's got great footwork. And then he's just got a conservation of movement on his whole motion. Like there's no wasted motion, but yet he sees the field and he can make all these throws from every platform. And then really the telltale sign about him, honestly, James, is Nico Collins was there for 2 years.
Yep.
Nobody thought Nico Collins was anything more than a go route guy or stop guy. Like he runs the whole route tree and he looks like an elite number one wide receiver right now. And he sat there for 2 years with all the quarterbacks that they played, nothing. Now, like, he's a go-to guy. And then you can't, like, I remember, down at Senior Bowl last year, like, nobody could cover Tank Dell. Nobody.
No.
And so nobody could cover him in the NFL right now. Like, he just has this, for a small guy, it's not easy. Zay Flowers has it. Tank Dell has it. They know how to separate. They know how to get open. They know how to play bigger than their size. It's really been fun to watch. But the quarterback makes the receivers. And so that's what we've seen early on.
And the Texans don't turn the ball over, and that's all the Broncos defense has been doing during this winning streak is taking the ball away. And it feels like every single week after the Broncos have 3 or more takeaways in this win streak, it's like, man, they did it again, but they're not going to be able to continue this, right? Like at some point it's going to drop off. Baldy, how do the Broncos keep taking the ball away at this rate, or at some point do you see it dropping off?
Well, I mean, they've got 16 takeaways in this 5-game win streak. I mean, it's absurd. They lead the league in takeaways. So I don't know if it's not going to stop. I mean, you put JP in there, at safety, he does the same thing that Kareem does. Just goes and blows somebody up. Like, they're still smacking people pretty good. They're still getting it out in a variety of ways, just not, sack fumbles on the quarterback. They're taking away from some of the impressive hits in the middle of the field. So, I mean, it's obviously stressed, and it's interesting because the only Super Bowl Sean Payton ever won in New Orleans, they led the league in takeaways. So, I mean, if you want to just sort of play around with that idea, I mean, Sharper, they had Malcolm Jenkins, they led the league in takeaways, Greg Williams. So they're on their way right now. I don't know if it can continue. Nobody knows. They tend to come in bunches, but it's 5 straight weeks in a row. I'm sure once you start doing it, you start expecting to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baldy, we started this show by talking about Coach of the Year, and we were talking about how Sean has really turned the ship around, going from 1-5 to now 6-5, and the offense is looking good. And D'Amico Ryans has done a great job with a rookie quarterback, being able to have young players executing at a high level. Between these two coaches, who would be your favorite for Coach of the Year?
Ooh.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Nick Sirianni is 10-1. I mean, there's a lot of guys. John Harbaugh has turned things around in Baltimore. A lot of guys. But if you just said, okay, between D'Amico and between Sean, I think if you've got a rookie quarterback with a perennial losing franchise for the last 5 years, you'd have to give it to D'Amico. But to be 1-5, to give up 70 points, to have a quarterback that looked like he was on his way out the door the way he played last year, to right the ship, turn things around, build an offense around what they have on the fly, because it's not the offense he ran in New Orleans for 16 years. If you can give co-coaches a year, I want to shortchange the guy that I give it to, because I can make the case for both.
Yeah. Baldy, one of the most polarizing people in Denver over the last several years has been Garrett Bowles. I mean, he either infuriates fans, or there's a season that he has where he plays out of his mind, like a few years ago. And then we look at what he did against Myles Garrett on a bunch of snaps. He's always been so athletic as a player. What have you seen from Bowles this year? We talked about the O-line essentially, but him specifically, because there is a ceiling there that could be kind of high if he figures things out.
Yeah, well, we saw the meltdown earlier this year too, when they were losing games. We saw that, and just the overall frustration. I think they're being well led right now and well coached. And then you've got continuity. Ben Powers comes in. They've got a guy who's playing next to every single week, and nothing against Dalton Risner or guys that were there, but it looks like they got an upgrade at that position. They've got continuity. I think they got a coach that knows how to game plan when Myles Garrett is out there, where you're not just on this island and you feel
they give
like
him help. Yeah.
Yeah. When it's necessary, you can't do it all the time, but and then they, even when they weren't running the ball real well, they were still running it. And it's getting better now. And Samaje obviously has been a big reason for that. Javonte getting healthy, all that's helped. So there's a lot more balance in the offense over this win streak right now. So I think all those things contribute, James. I think the athletic ability hasn't changed. It's still out there, which is good, but that doesn't make you a great player. You know, I mean, you still have to be consistent, and you got to keep your penalties down, and you can't hurt the team. And when you get, when you're on the island, and it helps that the quarterback is mobile and he can pull some Houdinis out of his hats the way he has the last 3 weeks. That can help a guy as well.
The Broncos are a physical, intimidating, mean football team on both sides of the ball now. How do you coach that into players or into a team? Or is it something where you kind of have to shift the locker room and change pieces around? Because it feels like almost overnight on both sides of the ball that this team has really adopted that mentality.
It's literally the biggest conundrum in this league because you can't practice the way we once used to practice. And so you used to build toughness in practice. 9-on-7 periods, we're padding up. We used to do it the old school way, and we would just sort of separate the wheat from the chaff, and you can't do that anymore. So, you've got to be, I believe that, it all starts with the head coach and his toughness and his mental toughness. And, look, Sean's hard on coaches now. I was just talking to Aaron Cromer on Sunday, James, and, he was with Sean, in New Orleans. And he used to say, like, when Sean would come into that, that game planning meeting, and he'd have the clicker in his hand, and his legs, he'd fold his legs, like he'd get comfortable. He knew they were in for a 5-hour session. Nobody was going home. Nobody was getting out the door early. Like they were going to grind away. I think it just starts with the head coach and the demands. And I think a lot of teams, maybe after week 3 or maybe after the Kansas City win, they would have just been, celebrating out here. Like I don't get the sense that he's allowing any of that to happen. I think there's a way to enjoy the season, enjoy wins, without losing focus about what your job is. And so I honestly, it's Sean learned a lot from Bill Parcells. He sounds like Parcells a lot of days when he talks. The things that he says, he almost mimics them to a fault sometimes. But that was Parcells' magic, was to get the most out of each guy in a different way. And, he's working his way around the locker room knowing how to push the buttons, to get the best out of these guys.
Yeah, and Baldy, we're smarter by having you on. We really appreciate you coming on, and everyone's got to check out Baldy's breakdowns.
Always.
Baldy also joins our guy James Palmer, and you can find that everywhere, right?
Yeah, we got a big show tomorrow, Baldy. You want to hear who's on before you?
Yeah.
We got Jesse Bates, Defensive Player of the Week.
Yep.
And now Hall of Fame. Yep.
Yeah,
and now and Eddie George gonna be on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Eddie, how's he doing at Tennessee State? Are they doing all right now?
Well, they're doing okay. We're gonna find out a little more about how things are going for Eddie. He's got to keep getting some of them guys that aren't playing at Bama and stuff to come on over.
Well, I was with Eddie at the one of the bowl games in Los Angeles last year. I forget which one it was, and he was coaching one side. And I saw him in the weight room the morning of the game, whatever. Like he looks like he should still suit up.
Still give you a couple carries. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well,
still punting pretty good.
Hall of Famer, semifinalist. Eddie George gonna be on the
And
show.
Philadelphia's own, James. So he's right from our streets right here.
Baldy, could you
That's
give
right.
a few pass protection sets still?
Oh, Baldy can still give you a couple.
I still know how to hold pretty good.
And get away with it too.
Get away with it, yes.
Yep.
We held down this show, Baldy. Thanks so much for your insight, and check him out at Baldy NFL over on Twitter or X or whatever you call it these days. Thanks,
Yeah.
Baldy.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you
buddy.
soon. See you. Take care.
Man, love having Baldy on.
He's the
Just
best, man.
so much ball talk when he's on, and I love it.